Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. Now, folks, I'm going to let you know that I am getting very close to closing my investigation into this case. And some of the things that I will expose you to in this video is going to be shocking for some. It's going to be eye-opening for others. But to continue to deny what I've said in this case is not something that even the furthest realm of the naysayers can continue to deny. This case, as it turns out, is a lot bigger than I even imagined. But it all revolves around one thing, and I've said it for a long time. It's the use by law enforcement of confidential informants that is responsible for the Idaho 4 atrocity. I do not blame the families of the victims in this case. I blame law enforcement because it's their methods that lead to things like this. But you can be assured that the situation that led to this is clear as day. And the parties that are responsible for this are very scary. Let me tell you that. And there has been messages put out, even by law enforcement, to try to let you know what took place. And when I say law enforcement, I don't mean the Moscow PD. I mean law enforcement, feds. They've tried to let people know what's going on in this case, but people don't want to listen. In this video, I'm going to show you unequivocally what happened with the Idaho 4 case. And I'm going to do it in some very simple terms. Let me explain a few things first, and then I'm going to show you what it all means. So prepare for some shock. Here's what the authorities have been up in arms about for a while. When I say authorities, I mean federal authorities. Because when this trafficking group started to gain traction, again, we'll start with Arizona, where narcotics are brought in from the cartels. And then they're trafficked up through California into Seattle, Washington, where some are shipped via cargo ship to Alaska, Canada, and other areas. But other narcotics are trafficked across the I-90 corridor into Spokane. That is all run by what was known as the Aryan family. Then once the narcotics reached Spokane, the next organization took over. That is the Aryan Knights. They would then traffic the narcotics into into Coeur d'Alene, and then south through Moscow, Idaho, all the way down to Boise. And then they would distribute from there to different parts of the country. The alliance between the two organizations, the Aryan family and the Aryan Knights, is a scary proposition for federal law enforcement because it doesn't end there. Other groups pick it up once the narcotics leave Idaho. And this was a flowing railway of narcotics. And to combat that, law enforcement employed some very unethical practices, in my opinion, using confidential informants in a case like this against these types of people that they had to know the repercussions would not be good. The Idaho Department of Justice gives us a little insight into the history of this group. You can see here recently in July that the leader of the Knights had to plead guilty to RICO conspiracy and assault charges. And the defendant was a member of an enterprise called the Aryan Knights, the AK, since at least 2007. The AK is a prison gang that operates within the Idaho Department of Corrections, prison facilities, but also outside of the IDOC facilities in the District of Idaho. It was founded to organize criminal activity for a select group of white inmates within IDOC custody. A press release issued recently from the Department of Justice. It says the investigation focused on two prison gangs, the Aryan family and Omerta. Remember this, Omerta, which are predominantly white prison gangs that have presence both in and out of prison facilities, and which engage in drug trafficking and other criminal activities as their primary purpose. The investigation identified numerous individuals affiliated with the gangs, determined to have been involved in drug trafficking, money laundering activities, and the distribution of multi-pound quantities of narcotics, including FENT, METH, H, and C, throughout Western Washington and other states. Investigators refer to this network of suspected drug traffickers as the Aryan Family Omerta Drug Trafficking Organization. This investigation ultimately led to the use of court-authorized Title III wire interceptions. In total, agents received authorization to intercept 10 separate target telephones, with the interceptions occurring between July and December of 2022. Wiretap interceptions, search warrants, and other investigative techniques revealed a massive conspiracy to distribute large amounts of narcotics, including FMH and other drugs. Now, when I first read this, the Omerta part of it perplexed me, because never once had they been referred to as Omerta up until this particular press release by the Department of Justice. And Omerta just didn't sound like something that would be associated with an Aryan Brotherhood prison gang. And I reached out to people that may be in the know, and I got responses back that were, let's just say, a little less than satisfying. So I scoured, researched, trying to find any connection to any other group known as Omerta. The closest I could find was a gang in Pennsylvania that consisted of African Americans, and one other group that is very old. And that's where the insight into what Omerta really means. Omerta is not a white supremacist prison gang. The DOJ, when they put out that press release, they knew this. The Aryan family is a white supremacist prison gang. The Aryan Knights are a white supremacist prison gang. But Omerta is not a gang. Omerta is a code. And by code, I don't mean something that they're trying to hide that you have to decipher. By code, I mean a code of action. It's a code that they take, like a code of silence. Their code is a code of omerta. And by the DOJ putting that in the press release, it's them sending a message letting people know, only people in the know, what went on in the Idaho 4 case. I assure you, it was omerta. You see, omerta is not a Spanish word, it is an Italian word. And what the law enforcement, the federal law enforcement, have learned is that the white supremacist prison gangs that operate inside and outside of the prison walls now, as it relates to all of their endeavors, they are mirroring or trying to mirror what was so successful for the Italian mafia in the past. They are adopting the code of the Italian mafia. And their main code is omerta, a code of silence. But that's not all that is involved with omerta. It's a code of silence, and if that code of silence is broken, then ramifications are demanded. Because you see, omerta, under the code of omerta, anyone who spoke to the police was marked for torture and death. And so were their families. To countless mafioso, inghettisti, and cameristi, the rule by which they lived and died was simple and summed up with a single word: omerta. Whoever appeals to the law against his fellow man is either a fool or a coward. Whoever cannot take care of himself without police protection is both.
New twist in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Police are now saying that they are not sure if the victims were targeted. Walking back statements from prosecutors about the investigation, the shift comes after people across Idaho gathered for emotional vigils to honor the 4 students who were lost. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us now from Moscow, Idaho. So, Morgan, this is the second key detail about that case that has kind of changed. Early on, police said there was no threat to the community in the first few days, and then they said, well, wait, maybe there is. And now they seem to be walking back another detail. Can you explain?
Yeah, Kate, I think a lot of the confusion surrounding this targeted statement stemmed from the fact that when the prosecutors said that it could be location-based and not individual-based, that got a lot of people thinking that it had shifted the direction of the investigation.
It affected the investigation, all right. Once law enforcement really realized what they were dealing with, it greatly affected what they were going to put out to the public. And folks, there are so many more things tied into this case that I haven't filled you in on yet that really makes me wonder what it is that we're all looking at with this Bryan Kohberger trial. It is suspect, to say the least. But keep denying the facts in the case. Keep denying what really went down on King Road and why. Until it's acknowledged by everyone, Pavarotti will not stop. So to help him do that, please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, and your criticisms. Now, when you post your criticisms, please do so in a respectful manner, and I will respond in a respectful manner. Thank you for watching. Pavarotti is out.
Was it the voice? Was it the fire burning?